I was only 9 when I begged God to take me, because going home meant going back to him. In the quiet village of Umuaka, where red earth paths wound between clay houses and the morning air smelled of firewood and mango trees, everyone knew Adaeze. She was the girl who smiled. At just 19, Adaeze had become a favorite among the villagers. Not for wealth, not for beauty, though she had both in her own quiet way, but for her kindness. She fetched water for Mama Nkechi when her legs failed. She cooked for the church women every Saturday without asking for anything. She laughed loudly, even when the joke wasn't funny. She smiled at strangers like she'd known them all her life. But what the village didn't know was that Adaeze hadn't cried in 6 years. And the last time she did, it was the night her mother died. It was a Sunday morning when things began to shift, the kind of morning that started normal but didn't end that way. Church bells rang, children chased chickens, and Adaeze helped her uncle prepare for the village meeting. He was the village chairman, a proud, broad-shouldered man named Ogbuefi. Everyone respected him. He had taken Adaeze in after her mother's death and raised her like his own. Or so it seemed. Adaeze, bring that wrapper, the white one. Ogbuefi called from the veranda. Yes, uncle, she said, her voice as light as always. She ran to get it, smiling, of course. Later that day, as men gathered under the big Iroko tree to discuss community dues and land matters, Adaeze helped serve palm wine and suya. Her laughter floated between the men's loud conversations. You will make a fine wife someday, one of the elders said, winking. She smiled again. Thank you, Papa. Inside, her stomach turned. That evening, as the village slowly returned to calm, a letter arrived. A simple white envelope, no stamp. Just her name, Adaeze. It was slipped through the window, and when she opened it, the neat handwriting made her breath hitch. He thinks you've forgotten, but I know you haven't. Not everything stays buried. There was no name, no return address, just those words, and the memories they woke up like dust shaken from an old rug. That night, Adaeze didn't sleep. 6 years earlier, the village had buried her mother in silence. No one spoke of how she died, only that it was sudden. Adaeze remembered the crying, but not hers. She hadn't cried, not even once. After the burial, her uncle had taken her in. People praised him, but no one asked why she barely spoke those first 2 years, or why she never sat beside him if she could help it, or why she flinched when he entered a room unannounced. Adaeze folded the letter and hid it beneath her pillow. That morning, she still wore her smile as she fetched water, but her hands shook slightly. Are you okay? Asked Ifunanya, her best friend since childhood. Adaeze nodded, just didn't sleep well. Come to my house later. We'll fry plantain and gist small. I will, she lied. That night, she didn't go. The second letter came 2 days later. This time it said, he tells the village you're his daughter, but he knows what he did. You were 13. He was supposed to protect you. Adaeze stood frozen, the paper trembling in her hand. She looked toward her uncle's compound. He was laughing with some men, oblivious. It had been 6 years. She had buried the memory deep, like the way you stuff old clothes into a hole in the ground, praying they'll rot away. But this letter, it was like someone had dug them back up and placed them in her hands. Over the next week, 3 more letters came, one with no message at all, just a photo of her as a child, sitting on her uncle's lap. Her smile, even back then, looked a little too forced. The final one broke her. It read, how long will you keep smiling for a man who stole your innocence? She locked herself in her room that night and stared at herself in the mirror. The silver bangle on her wrist, a gift from her uncle years ago, suddenly felt like a shackle. Adaeze stopped smiling. People noticed. Are you sick? Is it a boy? Are you on your period? She gave no answers. She stayed quiet, but her mind was loud. The village prepared for the annual Ike Festival, a celebration of strength, history, and community. Adaeze had always danced at the festival. She was the lead in the girls' group. This year, the committee asked if she'd perform again. She hesitated, but then she said yes, because Adaeze had a plan, and it was time. The festival day arrived. Music filled the air. Women wore their finest wrappers. Drums pounded as masquerades leaped and spun. Everyone gathered at the square, including Ogbuefi, seated proudly in front, his walking stick beside him. Adaeze stepped into the clearing with her group. She was radiant in a red and white outfit, beads dancing around her waist. But it wasn't the dance that caught attention. it was what came after. When the music stopped, and everyone expected the girls to bow and leave, Adaeze stepped forward, and for the first time in her life, her smile was gone. "I want to tell you all a story," she said. The crowd murmured. Ogbuefi leaned forward, confused. She continued, "It's the story of a girl whose mother died when she was 13, a girl who was taken in by a man the village respects. But no one knew what happened behind closed doors. No one asked why she stopped laughing, or why she was scared at night, or why she never told anyone. Silence. You could hear a pin drop. She looked directly at her uncle. That girl is me?" Gasps. Whispers. Someone dropped a calabash. Ogbuefi stood abruptly. "Adaeze, enough of this madness." But she kept speaking. "I was a child, and he took everything from me. And for 6 years, I smiled to survive. But I'm not afraid anymore." Then she pulled the final letter from her waistband and held it high. "I don't know who sent this, but thank you." She turned back to the crowd. "My name is Adaeze. I am not broken, and I will no longer protect the man who hurt me." The village of Umuaka had never known a silence so loud. The morning after the festival, whispers filled the air like smoke. Adaeze's name was everywhere. Some villagers said she had gone mad. Others called her brave. A few whispered that they'd always sensed something wasn't right in that compound. But the one person no one had seen since the festival was Ogbuefi. His gates stayed shut. He said nothing, not a word. Meanwhile, Adaeze had moved into her late mother's old hut behind the main compound. It was dusty and small, but it was hers. The first night she slept there, she didn't dream of fear. She slept in peace. 3 days later, a boy arrived with a message. The village elders had summoned her. Ifunanya rushed to her, worried. "Are you going to stand in front of all of them again?" "I am," Adaeze replied. "You're not scared?" Adaeze looked at her, calm. "I've already lived in fear for 6 years. What's one more day?" That evening, the village square was full. The elders sat in their carved wooden chairs under the old udara tree. Ogbuefi sat beside them, his arms folded, his eyes dark. Adaeze walked in alone. No one held her hand. No one walked beside her, but somehow she didn't feel alone. "Daughter of Umuaka," said Elder Nwokoye, "we heard what you said at the festival. But these are serious accusations. We must ask you plainly. Is it true?" Adaeze stood straight. Her eyes didn't move from the elder's face. "It's true." Elder Nwokoye nodded solemnly. "Then say it clearly, for all of us to hear." The entire square grew silent. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Adaeze's voice came soft at first, but steady. "After my mother died, I went to live with my uncle, Ogbuefi. I was 13. He gave me food, a place to sleep, and a warning." She paused. People leaned in. "He said I belonged to him now, that no one would believe me if I spoke, that I owed him my silence." Gasps, she continued. "He would enter my room at night. He would touch me. Some nights, he did worse. I didn't understand what was happening. I was too young, too afraid." People began murmuring. One woman covered her mouth. "And every morning I would wake up, smile, and serve him tea like nothing happened. That smile became my shield." She turned and looked directly at her uncle, her voice louder now. "You hurt me, and I carried your secret like a stone in my chest, but I won't carry it anymore." Ogbuefi jumped to his feet. "She's lying. She's possessed. I raised her like a daughter." But no one stopped Adaeze. Not this time. "You raised me like a daughter and treated me like a wife, but I was just a little girl." Silence. Not one elder said a word. The men who had once toasted palm wine with Chuka now shifted uncomfortably. The women, many of them had tears in their eyes. That night, the meeting ended with no final verdict, but the truth was already loud enough. By the next morning, things began to change. The market women greeted Adaeze differently. Some squeezed her hand gently. Mama Nkechi brought her roasted yam. Ifunanya's father came to repair her mother's hut without being asked. And most importantly, others began to speak too. The first woman came quietly, mid-30s, soft-spoken. "He did the same to me when I was 17, but I didn't know what to call it." 3 days later, another girl came, then 2 more. Within a week, 6 women from different years, different families, had shared the same story. The village could no longer deny it. The elders stripped Ogbuefi of his title. He packed his bags and left Umuaka in silence. This time, no one followed him. Months passed. Adaeze didn't become rich or famous, but she became something else. something stronger. She started a women's circle under the big mango tree where girls could come and speak freely. She taught them to name pain, to trust their voice, and to never smile just to hide their hurt. One evening, while sweeping her compound, she found a final letter under her doorstep. It read, "You saved more than yourself, a friend." She smiled, not out of fear or politeness, but out of something rare, freedom. Sunset bathes Umuaka in gold. Children play in the distance. Laughter rises from the women gathered around a fire. Adaeze, now wearing a calm face and a loose wrapper, sits quietly with Ifunanya. "What are you thinking?" Ifunanya asks. Adaeze replies that a house is not a home if it hides your pain, and a smile is not strength if it hides your truth. She stands, picks up a broom, and begins to sweep.